Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting straight into Automotive Spicy 4.0.
Right.
It's a framework that really keeps shaping how we ensure quality and safety, too, in these, well, increasingly complex automotive systems.
Absolutely.
Think of it as the industry's kind of established way, of assessing and improving the processes, the ones behind developing those critical embedded systems in our cars.
Exactly. At its core, automotive spice, or A-spice as we call it, is really about understanding an organization's capability. Can they consistently deliver quality in their development processes?
Okay.
It's a structured model used to evaluate these processes and, importantly, tailored for the specific needs of the automotive world. And it's built on that international standard, ISO IEC 33004.2015.
So it's got a solid foundation.
It really does.
Yeah, so this isn't some overnight thing. It has serious roots. You mentioned the automotive context. It actually came from Working Group 13 or the Quality Management Center, right? Part of the VDA in Germany.
That's correct. The German Association of the Automotive Industry. And we should probably also mention the ongoing work by the Intax working groups. They contribute a lot here, too.
Good point. Okay, so let's unpack the main mission. What is Automotive Spicy, ultimately trying to do for these organizations?
Well, the primary goal really is determining the capability level of an organization's development processes.
A capability level. Okay.
And that's vital for doing conformance assessments, basically checking if these processes meet certain benchmarks.
Right, like an audit?
Sort of, yeah. But it's more than just audits. ASIE is also a really powerful diagnostic tool. It gives organizations a clear path to see where they can improve, enhance their own process.
Okay, so it's like getting a detailed report card for your development engine. Shows the strengths, but also the areas that need some tuning.
That's a good way to put it.
Now, we're talking 4.0. This isn't the original model, is it? There's a bit of history.
Correct. Yeah, we're diving into version 4.0 today. It officially came out November 29th, 2023.
Right, fairly recent.
It is, and it's a revision of the previous version, Automotive Spice 3.1. So it reflects how the industry's evolved, lessons learned, that sort of thing.
And with any new version, you expect some updates, some changes. What are the sort of key shifts in 4.0? I know there's information out there, maybe like that UL Solutions video, but what stands out?
Well, even without digging into every single detail, there are some important terminology updates in 4.0 that are worth mentioning.
Okay.
For instance, they're much more consistent now using the term metric. That's for anything quantitatively measured. Think like defect rates or test coverage percentage.
Right, the numbers.
Exactly. And conversely, the word measure is now more clearly tied to a planned action, something you do to achieve a result.
Ah, okay. So metric is the data, measure is the action you take based on it. That clarifies things.
It does. It helps avoid ambiguity, which is crucial.
Any other language tweaks like that?
Yeah, there's also been clarification around affected party versus involved party.
Oh, interesting. What's the difference there?
At capability level 1, the focus is mostly on the affected party. These are the people directly relying on the output of a process to do their own work.
Got it. Directly impacted.
Right, but when you move up to capability level 2, the scope widens to include involved parties. So that includes the affected ones, but also other stakeholders who might have an interest or contribute somehow to the process.
Okay, so level 2 brings in a wider circle of people.
Exactly. And one other small but notable change. In some process areas, the term testing has been updated to verification.
Verification instead of testing. Why the change, do you think?
It likely reflects a growing emphasis on ensuring correctness throughout the development lifecycle, not just, finding bugs at the very end. Verification implies confirming things meet requirements all along the way.
That makes sense. More proactive. These might seem subtle, but in a framework like this, that kind of precision matters, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Clarity is key.
Okay, let's maybe zoom out a bit now. The big picture. What does Automotive Spice actually cover in terms of the development work?
Right, so Automotive Spice uses this two-dimensional framework. It's quite neat.
Your dimensions.
Yep. The first is the process dimension. This is defined by something called the Process Reference Model, or PRM.
PRM, got it.
Think of the PRM as basically a catalog. It lists all the processes that are relevant for developing automotive embedded systems.
Okay, the list of what needs to be done.
Exactly. Then the second dimension is the capability dimension. This uses what's called a process assessment model, or PAM.
PAM, okay, PRM and PAM.
And the PM provides the criteria, the indicators that you use to evaluate how effectively those processes in the PRM are actually being implemented.
Oh, okay. So the PRM is the what and the PAM is the how well.
You got it. That's the fundamental structure.
You mentioned the PRM is based on Automotive Spicy PRM 4.5 specifically for this version 4.0. What's the importance of that specific PRM version?
Well, using PRM 4.5 means it's the most up-to-date reference model tailored specifically for the complexities we see in automotive embedded systems today. Yeah. It outlines all those necessary processes from, figuring out requirements right through to releasing the product.
Comprehensive.
Very. And the PAM then is the practical toolkit for the assessors doing the evaluation. It contains specific indicators, things like expected practices, or information items, like documents or records.
Tangible evidence.
Exactly. Objective evidence that shows how a process is actually being performed compared to what the PRM outlines as its goals.
Right. Now, it's important to stress, isn't it, that the PRM and PAM aren't like a super detailed step-by-step instruction manual for every single project.
Precisely. That's a critical point. They operate at a higher level of abstraction. You could call it the what level.
The what level.
Yeah. They describe the purpose, the intended outcomes of each process, but they deliberately don't prescribe a specific methodology or a single way to structure your development lifecycle.
Why is that flexibility important?
It allows organizations to tailor their actual processes, the how, to fit their own specific context, their tools, their team structures, whatever, and still be assessed against the common automotive SPICE framework.
Makes sense. You need that adaptability. Now, I remember reading something about a plug-in concept. How does that fit in?
Ah, yes, the plug-in concept. It's in Annex C.1. It's particularly useful for visualizing how different engineering disciplines fit together in automotive.
How so?
Well, think of the classic V model, often used for system engineering. The plug-in idea suggests that specific engineering domains like hardware engineering, HWE, software engineering, SWE, and now, importantly, machine learning engineering, MLE.
Right, the newer domains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They can be conceptually plugged in to that system-level V at the right points in the life cycle.
So it helps integrate everything.
Yes. It allows for a really comprehensive assessment that looks at the overall system flow, but also dives into the specific practices within hardware, software, ML, and so on. And critically, things like project management or quality assurance, they're domain independent. They apply across the board.
That's a pretty neat way to structure it, actually. Okay, let's dive into the actual processes then. You said they're grouped in the PRM. Can you give us an overview of these process groups?
Sure. The PRM organizes all these processes into three main categories.
Three main types.
Yep. You got primary lifecycle processes, supporting lifecycle processes, and organizational lifecycle processes.
Okay, let's take the primary ones first. What kind of activities are we talking about here?
These are the processes directly involved in actually creating and delivering the product.
The core work.
Exactly. Everything from, say, acquiring components or requirements, right, through to validating the final system. So within this, you have groups like the Acquisition Process Group, ACQ, things like Supplier Monitoring, ACQ by 4, then the Supply Process Group, SPL, like SPL.2 product release, and the really big one, the System Engineering Process Group, SYS.
SYS, what's in there?
That covers a lot. SYS.1 requirement solicitation, SYS.2 system requirements analysis, SYS by 3 system architectural design, SYS.4 system integration and verification, and SYS.5 system verification.
Wow, okay. The whole system V model, basically.
Pretty much. Then you also have the validation process group, VAL, that's VAL.1 validation. And of course, the software engineering process group, SWE.
And SWE includes?
Things like SWE Plot 1 software requirements analysis, SWE Type 2 software architectural design, SWE.3 detailed design and unit construction, SWE.4 unit verification, SWE.5 component verification and integration verification, and finally SWE.6 software verification.
That's a huge chunk of the development effort right there. And you mentioned machine learning and hardware earlier being integrated.
Yes, absolutely. Reflecting how important they are now, there's the Machine Learning Engineering Process Group, MLE.
MLE, what processes?
You've got MLE.1 Machine Learning Requirements Analysis, MLE.2 ML Architecture, MLE.3 ML Training, and MLE.4 ML Model Testing.
Okay, specific to ML challenges.
Right. And similarly, the Hardware Engineering Process Group, HWE, includes HWE.1 Hardware Requirements Analysis, HWE.2 Hardware Design, HWE.3 Verification against the design, and HWE.4 Verification against the hardware requirements.
So really broad coverage of all the core engineering. What about the second category, the supporting lifecycle processes? What's their role?
Well, as the name suggests, These processes provide essential support to those primary processes we just talked about, all through the life cycle.
Like the infrastructure?
Kind of. Things like SUP.1 quality assurance, SUP.8 configuration management, hugely important to SUP.9 problem resolution management, SUP.10 change request management.
And classic support functions.
Exactly. And new in this version, reflecting the ML focus, is SUP.11 machine learning data management.
Ah, managing all that training and test data makes sense.
Yeah. These ensure the quality, the consistency, the traceability, and just effective management of the whole development effort and its outputs.
Right, the essential scaffolding, you could say. And the final category, organizational lifecycle processes.
These operate more at the organizational level, kind of above individual projects. They focus on management practices, process improvement itself, and leveraging assets across different projects.
So, broader scope.
Yes. You have the Management Process Group, MAN, which includes key things like MAN.3 project management, MEN.5 risk management, and MNN.6 measurement.
Project risk measurement. Got it.
Then the Process Improvement Process Group, PIM, with PIM.3 process improvement. That's the engine for getting better. And finally, the Reuse Process Group, REU, featuring REU.2 management of products for reuse, which is all about efficiency and consistency.
Okay, so from the direct engineering work to the vital support stuff and then the overarching organizational management and improvement. Automotive Spice really does seem to cover the whole picture for embedded systems.
It aims for that holistic view, yes.
Right. Let's shift gears now to that second dimension you mentioned, the capability dimension. We know the process dimension lists what needs doing. What does capability tell us?
The capability dimension is all about how well those processes from the PRM are actually being performed within an organization.
How well? Okay.
It provides a framework, a scale, really, for assessing the maturity and the effectiveness of each process. And this dimension is structured using 6 capability levels.
6 levels from
level 0 up to level 5. And each level is defined by specific process attributes characteristics that show you've reached that leveled capability.
Okay, capability levels and process attributes. Let's maybe walk through these levels. What does level 0 mean for a process?
Level 0 is called incomplete process. It basically means the process either isn't implemented, or if it is, it just consistently fails to achieve its purpose. It's not really working.
So fundamentally broken or non-existent?
Pretty much. There's no real foundation there.
Okay, so what about moving up to level 1? What makes a process a performed process?
Level 1 is the absolute baseline. A performed process is one that is implemented and it does successfully achieve its defined purpose. Simple as that.
It gets the job done.
It gets the basic job done. There's just one process attribute for level 1, PA 1.1, process performance. If you largely or fully achieve that, you're at level 1.
Okay, so level 1 is doing it. What makes level 2 different? That's the managed process.
Right. Level 2 builds directly on level 1. It introduces management discipline. So a process at level 2 isn't just performed, it's also actively planned, monitored, and adjusted if needed.
More control.
Definitely. There's a focus on managing how it's executed and managing the quality of the work products it creates. And this is where that distinction between affected and involved parties starts to matter more for communication.
Ah, okay. Any attributes?
2 attributes for level 2, PA 2.1 performance management and PA 2.2 work product management. And to reach level 2, you need to hit these and the level 1 attribute.
So it's cumulative. You need level 1 solid before you can claim level 2. Okay, so level 2 means you're not just doing it, you're actively managing it. What's the step up to level 3, the established process?
Level 3 is a pretty big jump in organizational maturity, actually. Here, the managed process from level 2 gets defined as a standard process for the organization.
Standardized?
Yes. And it's consistently deployed across relevant projects. You'd expect to see documented procedures, clear roles, responsibilities, maybe standard tools or templates being used.
So consistency across the board.
That's the goal. The process attributes here are PA 3.1 process definition, defining that standard, and PA 3.2 process deployment, actually using it. And again, you need levels 1, 2, and 3 attributes largely or fully achieved.
Okay. Moving higher now, level 4 is the predictable process. What's the key idea there?
Predictability. At level 4, that established process now operates predictably, meaning within defined statistical limits to meet its goals.
Statistical limits, so data comes in.
Big time. Level 4 introduces a really strong emphasis on quantitative management. The organization collects and analyzes data on how the process is performing.
What kind of data?
Things like defect rates, effort variance, schedule adherence, whatever makes sense for that process. They use this data to really understand the process's capability, identify where variation is coming from, and take proactive steps, corrective actions, based on the numbers.
Data-driven decisions.
Exactly. The attributes are PA 4.1, quantitative analysis, and PA 4.2, quantitative control. Think about it at level 4. They're not just saying, yeah, we test our software. They have data showing how effective that testing is at finding defects, maybe before release, and they can use that to predict future performance or adjust things.
Okay, so moving beyond just following the rules to actually measuring and controlling performance with hard data, and the top level, level 5, the innovating process.
Level 5 is the pinnacle. It builds on that predictable process from level 4. The focus here shifts to continuous improvement and innovation.
Always getting better.
Constantly. Organizations at level 5 are actively looking for ways to make their processes even better, adapting to changes in the business or technology. They implement these innovations, and then, crucially, they evaluate if those changes actually worked, driving ongoing improvement cycles.
A learning organization, essentially.
Very much so. The attributes reflect this. PA 5.1 process innovation and PA 5.2 process innovation implementation. It's about embedding innovation and improvement into the culture.
Wow. So a really clear progression there from just doing it to managing it, standardizing it, controlling it with data, and finally constantly innovating. Now, how do organizations figure out where they actually are on this scale? That's the assessment piece, right?
Exactly right. A process assessment is that structured, disciplined evaluation. It compares an organizational unit's actual processes against the process assessment model, the PM.
Using those indicators you mentioned.
Yes. Trained assessors use the assessment indicators, those base practices and information items, to gather objective evidence. They look at project documents, interview people, observe work being done.
Collecting proof.
Precisely. Collecting objective evidence about how the processes are being performed in the real world. And based on all that evidence, they assign ratings for each process against that capability dimension we just discussed.
And what do the ratings look like? Is it just, level 2, level 3?
It's a bit more detailed initially. For each specific process attribute, like PA 2.1 performance management, the assessors usually assign one of 4 ratings.
4 ratings.
Fully achieved F, largely achieved L, partially achieved P, or not achieved N.
F, L, P, N.
Okay. And those ratings just reflect how well the evidence shows that the requirements of that specific attribute are being met.
Got it. So you get a really detailed score for each attribute. How do those FLPN ratings then roll up into that overall capability level, like level 2 or 3 for the whole process?
There's a specific aggregation model defined in Automotive SPICE, but basically to achieve a certain capability level, say level 3. All the process attributes defined for level 3, and all the attributes for the lower levels, level 1 and level 2 in this case, must be rated as either largely L or fully F achieved.
Ah, okay. So you have to pretty much nail everything at that level and below. No steeping steps.
Exactly. It's cumulative. You need that solid foundation at the lower levels before you can credibly claim a higher level of capability.
That makes perfect sense. You can't be innovating well if you aren't even managing your work properly. Okay, so the assessment gives you this clear snapshot of where you stand. How can organizations then use that information to actually get better?
Well, that's really the point, isn't it? The assessment results are gold dust. They provide invaluable insights into where the organization's processes are strong, but maybe more importantly, where the weaknesses are.
The opportunities for improvement.
Exactly. Those identified weaknesses become the prime targets for process improvement initiatives. And remember that PIM.3 process improvement process we mentioned in the organizational group.
Right.
That's where you'd often manage these improvement activities. By focusing on those weaker areas, addressing the gaps highlighted by the assessment, organizations can work towards achieving higher capability levels.
And that shift towards, say, verification instead of just testing, that probably reflects trying to build quality in earlier, right? Which improves maturity.
Absolutely. It's about embedding good practices throughout the life cycle, which naturally leads to more mature, more predictable processes overall.
And what are the tangible real-world payoffs for an automotive company having these more mature, predictable processes?
Oh, the benefits are significant.
Yep.
Ultimately, more mature processes operating at higher capability levels, lead to developing higher quality products.
Better cars, safer systems.
Yes, and with greater predictability. That means fewer nasty surprises, fewer defects found late in the game, which in turn usually means reduced development costs and shorter timelines.
Efficiency and quality.
Right. Increased reliability of the systems in the field, which leads to greater customer satisfaction, enhanced safety. It all connects.
Hmm.
So Automotive SPICE isn't just an audit checklist. It's genuinely a roadmap for continuous improvement, for achieving excellence in developing these critical automotive systems.
So it helps you understand where you are and gives you a structured way to get where you need to go.
Precisely.
Okay, this has been incredibly insightful. Let's try and wrap this deep dive up. What are the absolute key takeaways we should remember about Automotive SPICE 4.0?
Okay, key things. First, remember it's a process assessment model specifically for the automotive industry. Its purpose is to evaluate and improve how embedded systems are developed.
Got it. Automotive specific.
Second, that two-dimensional framework is core.
Hmm.
The process dimension, the PRM, and the capability dimension, how well the PAM with its levels and attributes.
Process and capability.
Third, assessments use indicators to gather objective evidence, leading to ratings, FLPN, for attributes, which then aggregate to determine the overall capability level for each process. It's a structured evaluation.
Evidence-based assessment.
Yes. And finally, the ultimate goal isn't just the rating itself. It's about providing that structured approach for organizations to understand their current state and drive continuous improvement, aiming for higher quality, more predictable outcomes, safer products.
A really comprehensive framework then for what is undoubtedly a complex and supercritical industry, and it feels like really understanding and applying Automotive SPICE could be a major advantage.
It certainly can be.
So maybe for you, the listener, the question to ponder is, which part of Automotive SPICE, maybe a specific process group like MLE, or perhaps aiming for a particular capability level like level 3 or 4, which part resonates most strongly with the challenges or maybe the opportunities you see in your own work, in your own context? It's definitely a framework that invites that kind of reflection and ongoing improvement.
Well said.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this deep dive into Automotive SPICE 4.0.